Hey, Kay.
We have our video, right? For person connected?
Yeah, you want number 3, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I got it up right here.
Yeah, I'll say that to you later.
Mhm.
Good evening.
Hey, Kay.
How's that? Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, Terry, I can hear you.
Okay. Somehow I got on as Wendy. It messed me up.
Oh, no, it says Terry Kumwati.
Yeah, now it does.
Yeah, good deal. Perfect. All right. Well, we'll wait to get everyone else in. Thanks so much.
Okay. Can you see me okay?
Yep, I can see you too. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
How do I get the people that are on here? Oh, hit participants.
Yeah, and you can see who's on here.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So Kay or Amber?
Yes,
Amber?
Terry.
Yeah. Or Kay. I need Amber. Do we have anybody signed up to talk yet?
No, not that I see. I'm looking at the public testimony sign up and there's no one signed up to speak yet.
Okay. Don't they have to do that before a certain time?
4 p.m. correct. And I don't have anyone signed up yet. And I haven't gotten any emails either. I checked my junk and everything too. So
Good.
Okay.
Hello. How are you guys?
Good, Hattie.
Good. Good. How's Wendy doing?
She's good.
Good. Tell her that my daughter and my son send their love to her.
Okay, hang on a minute. Hey,
Okay.
babe, did you hear that? Hattie, you want to talk to Hattie a minute? She's gonna come over here and talk to you a minute, Hattie, since
Okay.
you haven't started yet. How do I get it to where I can see you, Hattie?
Oh, you should be able to see me now.
No, all I see is the school board meeting.
Oh,
That's okay. Hi, Hattie.
hello. My kids want me to tell you that
Oh,
they
there you
send
go.
their love.
Oh,
And
Send it right-
Cassie, she wants your phone number.
okay.
So, do you want me to text Terry?
Yes.
So you have my number and then I'll give you Cassie's.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
We'll give them my love too.
I will. I will.
Okay.
All right.
Terry,
Yes,
go to, at the option of your screen, go to the view options, and it'll give you an option of showing all the participants or the panelists.
okay, there, I got participants, there's 10. There's Brad.
Okay.
I think Dewey's having trouble.
I believe Dewey is the phone number as an attendee, not a participant.
That is correct. He's the phone number that's right here, but for some reason, the way he's coming in, I cannot make him anything. And
Oh, wait, there he is.
Dewey, can you hear us? I'm asking him to unmute himself, but it doesn't seem to be working, so.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I can hear you. Yep, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay. Sorry
Perfect.
about that.
You don't look very good. You just look like a green square with a phone in the middle of it.
Right on. That's my favorite. That's my favorite look.
I'm okay with that, actually.
Dude, I'm kind of square anyway.
Yeah, I get it.
That's why
Right.
that's why your sister wouldn't go out with me in high school.
Yeah, I know.
We're just waiting for
Melissa's
Tracy
having
and,
trouble. Yeah.
Melissa,
Melissa's having trouble, or she said she's rebooting her Firefox.
correct. Oh, here's Tracy Rowe. Hey Tracy, can you hear us now?
His camera's not on.
Yeah, I made him a panelist now, though.
Yeah.
He should be with us in just a minute.
I had to go through a bunch of hoops to get signed on here. What
Oh.
changed, you guys?
Yeah, me too. I actually signed on the,
No, you guys should have gotten invites from that I just sent you, that I text messaged you and let you know that you just needed to go to that invite.
Well, I just went to the meeting thing, on the calendar, Amber, like we do before. And, I said, yes, I'm going to attend. And then I had,
Well, that's if somebody's coming in from the outside.
oh,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah, so that's why I sent you that special invite.
I,
'Cause that makes you a panelist.
I'm sorry. I didn't see
No, you're totally fine. I'm glad you're here. And it looks like we got Melissa too. Melissa, can you hear us? I can see her there.
Yeah.
View options. My camera's on, but can't see my face. Don't know why.
Tracy, look
Yeah.
at the bottom of your screen for the page, and it
Yeah.
says mute and then stop video. Click on that stop video, the camera, and then you might come up because you're blocked on. There you are. There.
Woo!
Oh.
Hey,
Okay, can
how's
everybody
everybody
hear
like
me?
my haircut?
Can
How's
anybody
everybody
hear
like
me?
We can hear
haircut?
you, Melissa.
Okay,
Perfect. All right.
Okay, we're all here. So let's start this meeting because it is time 6:32. So I want to start this meeting of the Jefferson School District 14J Board of Directors, this regular virtual meeting, and we're going to start it with a call the meeting to the order and a flag salute. So Amber, can you put the flag on, or do you want us just go without it?
Yeah, just go without it. Sorry, I don't have
Okay.
the flag.
Okay, so let's start. I
No, we
pledge
have a flag.
allegiance to the flag
To the flag
of the United
of
States
the
of America
America,
and to the republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands one
one
nation
nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all.
for all. I've got a flag around here somewhere. I'm just looking for it.
If I had my COVID mask, we could have went with that.
I think it's in a potted plant in the other room.
Okay, so let's do roll call. So Melissa,
I think I'm here.
okay, Kay,
Kay Jones is here.
okay, Dewey Robbins,
present.
okay, Tracy Rowe.
You first, Terry. Save the best for last.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't work like that. You're already here. You admitted it. I see you.
Tracy Rowe, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, and Terry Kamalotti here. Okay, so we're going to look at number 3, review, adjust, and approve the agenda and the consent item.
I have a question before I agree to any of the consent items and I asked to pull policies. I just wanted to clarify. We see the language in there that's bracketed that there were a couple of things in there that I weren't sure if they were the corrections or they were choices that we needed to make. And I need Amber to clarify.
Everything you see here is from the last update that we did through the policy meeting that we did, and everything are things that we chose and ways that OSBA made the changes for us and the ways we decided to go. This was all of J.
Right. So, but what I'm asking is our final revision, all of the brackets and everything will come out in our final drafts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We won't see all of the brackets and all of the little right, where the entire board is seeing our choices that we made so they can understand how we came to that, and then the final copy is going to be all cleaned up and pretty without the extra brackets in there and the little notes and the highlights and all of that. I just wanted to clarify that. Sometimes when I look at those, I expect to see everything all pretty. And then I remember, no, we need to see like our legislative intent. And I kind of wanted to, it's been a few months since we've done this. So.
Yeah, done
Okay.
the same way each time. Each section's been done. And yes, it will have, everything will be nicely cleaned up when we get it from OSBA, correct?
Okay, you have, then I'll entertain a motion.
Question. Okay. I move that we approve the agenda and consent items as presented with the clarifications that have came from Amber with regards to Melissa's question.
I second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the agenda consent items as presented with the clarification of the question asked by Melissa for what Amber was going to do. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any more discussion?
Yes.
Okay, Tracy.
Melissa and Dewey, this is an enormous amount of policies that the both of you have gone through. And again, thank you for all the time that you guys invest in this. I was thrown JG corporal punishment. Amber, can you scroll down to that one, please?
Tracy, it's still on the books in the legislature that you can get spanked in school. And we've rejected that notion that you can't be spanked. So
Well, that's what I wanted to talk and ask,
yeah.
I remember, poor little me, 6th grade going into middle school, had this little girl that would not quit kicking me, and my mom and dad finally said, we'll kick her back. And man, I got throttled with my parents' permission with a paddle that had holes drilled in it. And I'm just like, why do we even, it's not accepted, acceptable behavior. Are we just reinforcing it, Melissa?
It's not. So just so you know, it's still ORS that corporal punishment is allowed, but we are not tolerating that. So we don't do physical punishment, and we don't allow that, and we don't really want to encourage violence or spanking, right? If courts have affirmed that parents can spank their children, but there's kind of been a pendulum swing that schools aren't to do that. When I was in school, there was a board of education that hung on the principal's wall, and there were kids, I'm in my 40s. So, 30 years ago, kids still got spanked on occasion in Corvallis School District 509J. But that's not really the way things go. But anyway, we've deviated from that as a district, and that's not really the way that most school districts go, and this policy reflects that.
Okay, and I appreciate that, Melissa. I just did not truly, I did not realize that this was still legislatively speaking something that is acceptable through the Oregon State Legislature.
I'd be surprised if there are any school districts that do still have a corporal punishment on their books, and I'm kind of surprised that the legislature hasn't changed that. I don't know. I'm kind of I was surprised a few years back when I looked it up and that it was still there. But anyway, we don't allow that, and then we went so far as to put prohibitions against that, or if somebody were to take action against a student. Yeah. So
again, I appreciate everything that you and Dewey endeavor into streamlining this process for us, but this one really, it just kind of threw me back in my chair, that it still existed and it's out there and so on. So
it may be that it was so common so many years back that they wanted to make sure that everybody knows that it's out there and to remind people. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments?
And we still have more policies too. I thought we were going to maybe have some of the ones that we worked on recently, but these are from last spring. So we still have another chunk coming our way.
Yeah, I think that's the one. Isn't that the one, Melissa?
For the question?
Yeah, for the review. Okay, so a question has been called for. I just had, before you say that, Does anybody have any questions for the building administrators? Okay. If not,
I did have a first student question, and it may not be for this. It may be a Brad question. It may be a first student question. But I was kind of thinking about, our buses aren't really running. We've budgeted money for buses, and we're not really running that way. And I was curious what the implications are with our contract and with our budget. So it can come back to us at another meeting. It doesn't obviously have to be answered now, but maybe Brad or Melody could answer what the implications are now that we're kind of operating nearly a year into COVID, where we're not really running our students around like normal, and what that means budgetarily, or what that means contract wise, or what kind of discussions have gone on. Anyway, I figure that maybe has some impacts for both the district and for student.
okay. I'll make sure that gets in the next meeting, Melissa, so we can talk about that a little bit. That'd be great. Okay, so the question has been called, so we are going to vote on the original original vote. So all in favor for approving the agenda consent item as what was stated. So Melissa?
Aye.
Kay?
Aye.
Dewey?
Aye.
Okay, Tracy?
Aye.
Okay, chair votes aye. Okay, so the next point we're going to get to is spotlight on education, and Brad Kapner is going to take that for us. So Brad, you want to take over?
Yep, thank you. So tonight we're going to highlight Jefferson Connected, and as you know, that's our marketing campaign. And as part of that, an extension to that is this effort that we have been wanting to try to convey or communicate with our community in terms of all the things that are happening in the district that are really positive. And so there's a lot to be positive and a lot to celebrate. Chris has been doing a nice job. Chris Shaw, our tech director, has been doing a really nice job of putting these films together, but he's doing more than just putting the films together. He's also really reaching out to the community, and he gives in every address, hey, if you're interested in partnering with us in one of these episodes, then let us know. So he's had the library and reach out, and he filmed part of that. He's also going to be highlighting some students in the coming weeks after winter break. And right now, what we've been doing is this mini series of showing teachers and what they are doing. And we sort of focused on innovation. So we're doing 3 episodes of innovation. And the first one was with one of our middle school teachers, Sean. And then Poole was the second one, Poole Murtha, a math episode. And then we'll do one more at the elementary school in the Sannon's class. So it just kind of gives, it's kind of a window, gives people a kind of a look at what's going on in the classroom and how teachers are adjusting to make education happen. So I'll be quiet now and let Amber play the video.
Yeah, Brad, it's not working. My Zoom is frozen, and if I undo my Zoom, I will stop the whole entire meeting. So I'm not sure why it's not working, but it just, my Zoom will not allow me to share another screen.
All right.
We could try sharing your screen. Here, let me try and see if you can share your screen, if you could bring it up maybe, but yeah, my Zoom is like frozen. And if I get out of my Zoom, I will cancel the entire meeting and everybody will be gone.
Okay. Well, you want to share the screen? I'll see if I can pull up our website. It's right there.
Yeah. Can you guys see my screen right now? Do you see a video or do you still see the agenda?
We see the lion in the J.
Well, and the shared screen is still the corporal punishment policy.
Oh, yeah, then.
Amber, I still don't have access to it.
Yeah, hold on. I don't know why it's doing this.
Well, Brad, isn't this the one that's on the district website?
It is. And then all of them are stored on our YouTube station, our
Yeah.
channel. There have been about 4 of them now. Yeah, let's see. Are you ready? Well, it says host disabled participant. Well, if we can't get it tonight, it might be that we can unfreeze it before the evening's over. But if we can't do it tonight, then I would encourage you to go and watch it on our website if you haven't already seen them. And then I could also show one next month too, because we're going to do several more. So
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll keep trying to unfreeze it or have it move or something, but for some reason, it just won't let me move anything and it's frozen.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for trying. Okay, so you want me, Brad, you want me to move on to the reports?
yes, please.
Okay, so the first report is financial statements and bills by Hattie Tripp. So Hattie, you want to take the?
I will. I
Okay,
will.
thank you.
As you can see from page 165, a lot of our revenue came in for our property taxes, which was really good.
Terry, can I interrupt?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Hattie.
No, it's fine.
Okay, Amber's getting it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. And Amber, I really appreciate you making this bigger so we can all see it visually without having to get our magnifying glasses out.
No
So,
problem.
Thank you. Yeah. So as you can see, a lot of our revenues come in, our property taxes, Marion County, Lynn County, and our state school funds on target. So we've received probably a little over half of our forecasted revenue, just from our state school fund and our property taxes. Any questions on that page?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, on to expenditures. Is there any questions on that page, those pages? No. Okay. Is there any questions overall from the financial statements? No. All right. Thanks, guys.
Hattie, I
Hattie,
have,
do,
go ahead, Dewey.
I mean, as Melissa was saying earlier, I mean, we just like for you to be involved along with the impacts on what the transportation savings could possibly be and things like that. So how that budgetary impact is too.
Right. And at this point, we are getting reimbursed 70% for our transportation from the state school fund. So keep that in mind as we utilize it for our food service to deliver those foods, because there are waivers. So we can get into more detail next month.
Okay, great.
I guess maybe I might want to clarify. I was thinking, there might be significant impact in, pardon me, got a really bad tickle.
Uh-oh.
Actually, let me get a drink. Hold on. Can you come back to me in just 1 second? I have to step away and grab a drink of water.
Okay, Melissa, I got a question anyway, so you can go ahead and
Okay.
get a drink of
All
water.
right, hold on.
So, Hattie, I just got a question. I know every year we get audited
Yep.
by a non-bias organization that we have
Right.
to actually pay a lot of money for. And I just know from the community, there's been a lot of question about the money spent on the new school with the bond and everything. And
Yep.
and I just want to know, that's also included in the audit that our auditors are going to do also, correct?
It is. And they're in the process of finishing up our audit right now. this year, it seems that they didn't audit our bond and our fixed assets for the last 2 years because it was a construction in process.
Mhm.
So it will be in our audit for 1920. So that's something that the auditors and I've been working on, going through adding the buildings to our asset inventory, so forth and so on. And then they'll also have information on finishing up the construction in process. So
Okay.
we're in progress.
I guess since you're talking about that, I'll ask a
Mhm.
question about that, and then I'll backtrack to my other question about the busing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Melissa, I'm not quite done yet
Oh, okay, go ahead.
on that statement. So when that is audited, it obviously the audit is something that the public can see also, correct?
Yes, we'll have the audit financial statement for 1920 on our website, just like the rest of the audit is. Yes.
Yeah, because
Yes.
I know from the last meeting that we had, there was some concerns about the monies being used and how they're used, and I think that this audit that is going to be done by is it the same company that we've used in the past from Albany?
Well, it's from Tigard. It's
Tigard.
Polly Rogers.
Yeah,
Yep.
Polly Rogers.
And they
Right.
may not get a lot of the detail that they may want to look. I mean, because we record all of the revenue and all of the expenditures under the appropriate line items. And when I send a trial balance to the auditors, they get detail by line item.
Right.
So if there's any adjustments that have to be made, they reach out to me and they talk to me about those if we have to make adjustments. So yeah, they're looking at the detail through the trial balance. And they're also pulling, I think we spent probably 2 or 3 solid days on a lot of the invoices because they want to compare the invoices. They want to look at deposits that were made. I mean, they're spot checking. It's a pretty in-depth audit.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
still going on.
Yes, and I knew that. I just wanted the audience to know, the people from the community to know that once this audit is done, we will mention it in one of the board meetings that it's done, and then the public or anybody from the community can come in and look at this statement that that Polly Rogers has done, and they can look at the audit, and they can it's open and free to you guys out there whenever you want it.
Absolutely. It's a financial report, and it's on our website like the budget.
Right.
Everything's laid out just like we present it, and it gets adopted just like the financial statement
Correct.
gets done for the end of the year. It's posted on our website. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you, Hattie. Now, Melissa, you can take over.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so we use GASB, is that right? Government Accounting
Standards, practices, or GASB, yes.
Yes, GASB. And then I understand that there are various levels of audits that school districts perform or can perform. Can you explain, so since I've been on the board, we've always done one particular kind of audit.
Yes.
Can you explain what kind of audit that is versus other types of audits? Because what I understood is that we do like a very basic or superficial type of audit.
We have what they call a single audit. So what that does is we give them a list of our deposits. We give them a list of the journal entries. We give them a list of the checks that we run. We give them a trial balance. They pull information. They set something into a query, and then it randomly chooses certain things to pick from, right? So then they send us a list of checks they want to see. They look at every bank statement for each banking account that we have. They look at, and they even have rights to get into Infinite Visions. This year they didn't log in, but in the past I've worked with auditors that actually we give them a login and they go find the detail for themselves in our software, accounting software. So it's a pretty in-depth audit. When you get the bank statements, you pick random deposits they want to look at. They look at adjusting journal entries to make sure that 2 people have seen them with a signature from Brad. They usually pick 2 of our grants to audit as well. So we have an asset inventory. So when something comes off of when we expire something, Maybe we've replaced a stove that's over 5,000 and we add a new one on. We have to add it to our asset inventory. So there's a lot of detail that they're looking at, and they always want to make sure that the requisition has approval before the expenditures happen. They make sure that deposits, one person puts them on, one person posts them. So there's always two sets of eyes looking at this, as well as Brad signing bank statements. So our process is pretty in depth. So not only does it protect our school district, it protects us as individuals. So our integrity, there's always a safety net, that there's always two people looking at what we're doing. Brad looks at payroll, and they look at payroll as well. They want to see, did Brad sign off on the whole payroll? Was it balanced? So, these are great questions, you guys, because someone that is maybe doesn't understand how an audit happens and our processes in-house happen, then it's nice to explain it, but it's really in depth and it's rigorous, because we have to make sure our processes, we always think, if an auditor pulls this, have we done the double duty to make sure that, one, the district's protected, and two, we as individuals are protected?
So the type of audit that we do compared to some other more intensive types of audits, can you explain that? Because I think another district that I was talking to does a little bit deeper type of audit.
If an auditor finds a finding, if there's a finding which will trigger an in-depth audit, which could be coming in and looking at everything, right? Pulling every bank, or they pull every bank statement, but pulling at every check, they pull every invoice, every accounts payable. So if you trigger a finding, that could trigger a more in-depth audit. Right. So at the very beginning, every time you do a process, you make sure that it's so stringent that if an auditor pulls it, for example, he sees the requisition date, then he sees the receipt date, which is after the approval of Brad approving to spend that money. Then they see the payment. So you always think that every time you do a process, you make sure that in the back of your head, have I done everything according to our school district's policies to make sure that our processes are so fine-tuned that our auditors aren't going to have a hard time, or we're not going to get wrote up, right? I mean, that's something that we don't want. So we just have to make sure that our processes are based on our policies, and our processes from our board to our superintendent to the people that are processing.
Okay.
I just
So
have
Melissa,
to,
okay, go ahead, Brad.
I just have to say this. Hattie, it's so much work to put these together, and I just have to acknowledge Hattie and Barbie for the stellar work they do each year. But they put so many hours into preparing for these auditors that they're pretty in-depth stuff, and we are doing really well through them because of their work. So anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank
and
you.
it's having the practices in place. And sometimes we don't make friends out there, because sometimes we're yelling at Brad and Brad's yelling louder than we are because a process did not happen the way it should have. But that's us to say, time out, you can't do it that way. We have to remind you, there's a policy that says, so we're like the gatekeeper to make sure our processes are good, because these are public funds, right? So we have to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to make sure our processes are good for our audits. That represents our work.
Okay. So
Very
Melissa, okay, wait a minute, Tracy. I think Melissa had another question.
Well, if he's got a question about audits, my question is going to go back to a first student question, so I can wait to ask that if we're still on
Tracy?
auditing stuff.
You have a question? Yeah.
Yes, I do. So Hattie, you and Barbie there's checks and balances.
Yep.
And it's you and Barbie, and then there's also a third checks and balance, which is Brad, correct?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so when Brad's hollering, that means he's seen something and has identified something that hasn't gone through the proper channels at the appropriate time before he is able to put his signature on it. Is that correct?
Usually it's me yelling loudly.
Okay, so when it comes to the understanding of what you've explained tonight in our audit processes,
Mhm.
randomly allowing our the auditing company that we work with, giving them random access to our books, checks, procurements, our assets, our liabilities, things of that sort. They have carte blanche to go in wherever they want to, correct? And just pull that stuff, or is it a, check some boxes and click the button and then they get this stuff out of the software?
We actually this year it's been paper.
Okay.
I've worked with auditors. I've worked with auditors that I've given them a login as read only, right? Because when they're auditing our information, they're auditing from the I-9 for an employee all the way down to their benefits, their contracts. So they are getting confidential information. So
Okay.
it would be no different to allow them to be able to log into our system, right? And see when a change log has happened for an employee, to see kind of the security features of our processes as well.
Okay. Pardon me, you guys, I got a tickle in my throat too. Melissa, you must have thrown it my way. Anyways, going back to further this conversation with respects to our auditors, our auditors, our auditing company is an independent organization that we're contracted with. And do we have any other auditors that could potentially jump into the fold in case there's some discrepancies?
We have, if you're
double check.
We would have to hire a company because they work for our school district. We would have to pay that. We pay up to $26,000 a year for our 2 audits. So if we wanted to get a second company in there, it would cost our district money. Now, I want to kind of make you guys rest assured that in the 3 years that I've been here, the 3 audits that I have done, or the 2 years I've been here with the 3 audits that I have done, I have had 7 to 8 different auditors. So the first year it was 3 people. The second year was 3 different people. This year it's 2 different people. So we're not getting the same people each time.
Okay.
If that's what you're asking.
That's kind of what I'm asking, in case there's any gray area out there where, checks and balances. It's a very important topic.
Tracy,
it's very important to me as well. I've got 21 years in school finance, and 21 years I've been audited twice each year. And that is, it's one of the top priorities in my position. Our position, mine, Brad's, everyone's here.
Tracy, it was recommended a couple of years ago. It might have been when Dr. Novotny had stepped in during the interim role, or maybe even when WESD came through, that we had Polly and Rogers for so many years that it was probably time to go out for RFP, just for the sake of having a fresh firm come through and have another, rotate through. It's not uncommon for people, every 3 to 5 years to change auditing firms. As I look through our auditing firms, they don't really change very much from year to year. So that's
Melissa,
not that they should change from year to year. Like, you don't really want them to be different from year to year. But if it's easy enough for them every single year that all they have to do is change the date, maybe that's not the best.
That's not all they do. Believe
not-
me, that is not all they do.
Well, I
Um,
don't really see a whole lot of, I know they're doing work, right? I'm not saying that they're not doing work on the other end, but I can look through those reports and the paragraphs are nearly identical. So part
Right,
of
it's
that
a template.
is like a, it's a cut and paste, right? So
yes.
part of me, part of my review process when I read those, I want to feel like there's some fresh insight into that, even if they use a different template. I don't.
Their financial report is pretty standard. I've worked with Polly Rogers as well as other auditors with other districts that I have worked with. The most I've had probably in 1 year is probably 3 different school districts, and I've had different, and that's in 1 year, and I've had different auditors. And these are conversations that Brad and I have had in the last month is, do we need to do an RFP for a different auditing firm? So those are things that we also talk about inside in our meetings as we go through our audit.
So let's, we, hang on a minute, Tracy, we can talk about audits all night long, and I'm the one that actually started it a little bit, but let's talk about this as a board in one of the next meetings if we want to do an RFP on our auditing organization, and then we can venture this a little bit deeper then. But I think Melissa had another question about.
I'm Terry. I'm not done.
Okay, buddy.
I got talked over.
Sorry, Tracy.
That's okay. I'm on the Oregon Trail and I'm in Nevada. I'm trying to get to Oregon. So, with respects to the RFP, yes, I agree, Terry. We certainly need to talk about that, and we have to have transparency. We've got community members that are extremely concerned about the accounting process, everything that went on with the bond, so on and so forth. So, going back to Hattie, how much does our accounting process cost us on an educational cost the district from the standpoint of what the state school fund provides us for educating our kids and holding transparency? How much does that cost us?
I budgeted about $26,000 for our audit. With COVID, I haven't allowed them in our office. I've asked them to do virtual audits, which makes it harder. And so there is no travel. We didn't have to pay as much last year, but I still budgeted the $26,000 that it cost for them to audit us.
Okay.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
A question?
Yes.
My door has always been open for any questions or concerns in regards to our community. And I'm just hoping that if they hear this, that they'll feel welcome enough to pick up the phone and call me if they've got specific questions. I would love to set up time with them to answer questions and show them a process. I want to be as transparent. This is our school district, and we need, I want to be transparent. I don't want there to be questions like that out in our community.
Mm-hmm. Nope. I appreciate that, Hattie. I thank you that you are
absolutely
stating that publicly, but I'm walking down through this myself, So the consensus is in some respects to some of the things that I've heard are disturbing to me. I'm like, why do people feel this way? So, this is for public record purposes, and that's why I'm asking these questions.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, in following up, you talked about red flags. I can't remember the exact word you used, where we have to go into a more in-depth, comprehensive audit.
A finding.
Pardon me?
A finding.
A finding. So it would definitely be my understanding that the school district would want to go through an audit process, being fully transparent to the point of answering questions, providing the information, resources for the auditors to be able to perform their duties on a regular basis. How long does an audit generally take, Hattie?
About a good month. It takes me 3 days. It takes me about a week to get prepared for them, right? So then I gather all the bank statements, I gather the quarterly reports, I gather a list of our staff. I gather, it takes me about a week to prepare for it. Then they're usually here for 3 days. I book out 3 days for them with any questions, any extra that I have to pull. This last audit, our final audit for 1920, has taken a little longer because we've done it virtually. So we've had to scan things to them. Okay. If we purchase anything over, it's the procurement law, anything over $5,000, there has to be 3 quotes. Anything after $10,000, there has to be bids. And these are questions that we have emails back and forth that says, where's the bid for girding? Where's the 3 bids for this? Where's your advertisement? I mean, those specific questions, the community doesn't see those, but those are questions that our auditors do ask. Okay.
Well, and just a reminder, Tracy, to the community and to the board that when Hattie and Brad and I started, the district went through a very extensive, because of some accusations that were made against the other superintendent. So the board and the district went through a very, very extensive audit with Dr. Novotny and with LBL. I think it was the person that Hattie was Hattie's boss at the time, actually. And
it was Jackie Olson, the senior finance officer.
Board secretary, and hearing about the audit and everything that was being found, and everything was fine. There was no findings of anything. So we have actually gone through a very extensive one before. Sorry, Tracy. Sorry.
We had $3 million in that budget that was misappropriated that had to be reallocated and moved around. And all of our title funds were in jeopardy of being lost. So I do take a little bit of issue with you characterizing the issues with the last superintendent and the last district.
No, I'm just saying that there was no findings in regards to that. That's all.
Hey, excuse me.
Okay, you guys.
Excuse me, I have the floor.
Okay. Yeah, Tracy, go on.
Thank you. Going back so that I can get to the end of what it is that I want to talk about. When it comes to flagging, Hattie.
Yes.
And we have to delve into a much more deeper, comprehensive audit process.
Mm-hmm.
What would that look like from the standpoint of the district office, and what you guys would have to do to facilitate that, and how much more money would that cost our district and potentially take away from education dollars for our students had we had to do that if something was flagged?
If something is flagged, right? Okay, so let me give you an example. If I don't have I-9s for our new employees, right? If I don't have an I-9 with the social security card, the identification, right? If I didn't have those for 3 of the 10 they pulled, okay? If I don't have a contract that matches what they're getting paid, if they divide it, or if they look at the net amount, if there's 2 out of the 10, that could be a problem. Okay. If I have our administrators out there spending money without Brad's approval, that could be a finding. Okay. So all those processes based on our policies, our board policies that our board members set, based on those, it is our responsibility in the district office to make sure that we are working towards, we make sure that we're abiding by those policies. Okay. And if I didn't know the things that our auditors are going to look for, then there would be a situation where they could come in and see something wrong. Okay. But because because I've done this for 21 years and I know exactly what needs to happen to make sure that we have their I-9. We have the contract that represents what Brad is looking at to make sure there's nothing that's fluctuating, right? They look at me, they look at Brad, they look at Barbie. They look at people that are in here. They're making sure that I don't put people on the system. There's segregation of duties. I don't put people on the system and give them a position, right? So there's so much in detail that happens inside this office that makes sure that there's no question for one, the district, and it protects me. Does that make sense?
Yep.
There's so many things that has to happen to have dual eyes on things to make sure that there isn't a chance for, I mean, just like if you're counting cash in our district, I specify I want 2 initials on that deposit slip when that deposit slip is brought to me. And I will send them an email and say to the administrator, I need 2 people's initials on the deposit slip when you're handling cash. It protects the employee and it protects the district.
Thank you, Hattie.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Last question.
Okay, buddy.
Didn't get answered. If it was flagged and we had to have a deeper comprehensive audit, how much
Yep.
money would that cost our district, Hattie?
It could be up to 100,000 for them to come in and sit with me for a month. It could be more than that. You know,
And-
if it's 26,000 for about 4 weeks of work to get a financial report and then have to come in and go through every piece of paper, go through every policy to make sure that our school district's working right, it could be, I couldn't imagine. I don't know. It could be more than $100,000.
Tracy,
No,
I think they
I'm not
told us,
quite done.
I think that they told us that it was $50,000 for a forensic audit back a couple of years ago when we
Yeah, I remember that. Melissa.
when we had to ask about that, and that was when we asked Dr. Novotny. So
Okay.
So,
Last 2 questions for you, Hattie.
Okay.
Are you the school district office manager?
I am the business finance manager.
Yes, I'm sorry, I worded it incorrectly. Go ahead, please state what your official position is.
I am the Jefferson School District's business finance manager.
Okay. Last question I have for you.
Yes, sir.
Prior to coming to work at Jefferson, Hattie, had you had any other exposure or relationship business-wise with Brad Capener prior to coming to work with Jefferson?
No, I met him when he interviewed me.
Okay.
When I come in to support the school district, when I was working for Lynn Benton Lincoln ESD, I was the one that came supported this district in August and did their payroll.
Okay. Terry, I'm done with my questions.
Okay. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Hattie, for answering all those. And Melissa, you still have one about first student.
yeah, I just wanted to clarify my question about first student. I wasn't necessarily curious about savings with first student or that we were getting refunds with first student. What I was actually thinking about with first student is that our contractual relationship with them had kind of shifted in that we're not shuttling students around anymore, and that are we still paying them what we would normally pay them because we're not busing students around? We're just, having a limited busing service with them, where we're, sometimes taking food around or maybe dropping off supplies. And we do have some students that may be being transported. And I was just curious what that looks like in this time between times and how that's impacting first student. So maybe that's from the first student side, because I'm sure that that's maybe hard on them, or maybe there's impacts to them. And if that's impacting our contractual relationship, I was just kind of thinking about that, and that we've had a really good relationship with First Student over the years, and that things are different. And I was curious what that's looking like for our district and for First Student. And it may be a complicated thing. I wasn't necessarily curious about reimbursements or, whatever. But anyway, I was just thinking about like, hey, things are kind of different, and we've had a really good partnership with them. And I didn't know what the impacts were, both directions. So that's what I'm
Hey.
curious about.
So here's what I did, Melissa. I wrote myself a note there.
Okay.
So let me dig into that a little bit and get some information for you, and then we can present that to you at the next meeting.
Yes.
I think it'd be good.
And
Yeah.
I hope that clarifies. There's kind of some nuances to that.
Yeah.
where
No, I get it.
it's a little different.
I get it.
And maybe
I
it's
understand.
and maybe it's the same answer where federal monies are kicking in because it's COVID, and federal monies are keeping First Student whole and helping the district. And maybe that's the same answer, or maybe like times are bad all around. I don't know.
Well,
I'm just worrying
yeah,
about
let us look into it, Melissa, and then we'll get a report on that and get that information back to you in January.
Thank you.
Okay, so Brad, are you ready for your, well, wait a minute. Are there any more questions for Hattie?
I just need to text. They've got a delivery.
I guess not. So Brad, are you ready for your superintendent update?
Yes.
Okay, you may have the floor.
Good evening, Chair Kamlani, members of the board. It's hard to believe that we are already at winter break. This has gone really fast, and this past summer and fall have been one for the record books, and one we're not going to soon forget. The challenges of starting school online and fires that impacted every community in our region have been really difficult to manage. We welcome the end of 2020, and we're hopeful for the year to come. Preparing a school district to ensure all students have access to instruction from home, are staying engaged, are receiving meals and academic emotional support, one where teachers feel prepared to teach in a new way, have the resources to be successful, and feel safe coming to work. All of this is a mountain of work that I'm happy to report that Jefferson School District has thrived in these areas. We have thrived because we have so many dedicated and talented leaders. Our principals have had to change their roles and spend much of their time on the phone supporting staff and families. They're planful, thoughtful, showing real leadership in the middle of prolonged crisis. Their job is always changing, and they have to face and be responsive to new challenges every single week. There hasn't been one week that's been the same as the one before it. Our technology department needs to be acknowledged because of all of the successes due to the fact that we can teach and learn online. Both Chris and Becca have been available and focused on resolving challenges, supporting teachers with online learning, and dealing with unexpected disruptions in service. They're a real gift. And not everybody enjoys folks that have this kind of talent, and we're really fortunate to have them. Our food service and maintenance leaders are so committed to not only resolving issues, but being forward thinkers and making plans to prevent issues before they become a reality. Our district office staff is responsive and taking a servant leadership approach, supporting staff and office managers, making sure we can operate smoothly. Kind of a what can we do for you to make it a better experience approach. Our partners in First Student have been there for us, willing to adjust schedules and support our work. And I could go on. Of course, we have many individuals in the district, teachers and support staff, who are making significant contributions every single day. We truly have an amazing team, and it's an honor to work with them. All that said, it doesn't make the challenges any less impactful. It doesn't make it easier for parents or students who are struggling emotionally and or academically. We have been dealt a very difficult situation. And even though we are trying our best to engage and support our students, learning from home is really hard, and it doesn't work for everybody. We know and understand this. So what does the future look like? I learned last week that the governor will be prioritizing educators for getting vaccinated after healthcare workers. They are predicting that this current wave of infections will subside in February. Teachers may be looking at April or May for receiving vaccinations. As you probably saw, I gave a personal address to the community last week and said that I believe that we're going to have students back this school year. I obviously can't predict the future, but I firmly believe that after spring break, if not before, we will have students in classrooms. What that looks like, not sure, but that is my hope, and I'm fairly optimistic. Regarding athletics, it again depends on the virus, but as of now, we will have 3 mini seasons. The first, which is a traditional fall cross-country, soccer, volleyball, football, starts on February 22nd and goes through April 11th. The next is a traditional spring baseball, softball, track field, goes through April 5th through May 23rd. And the final is a traditional winter swimming, wrestling, basketball, goes from May 10th to June 27th. At this point, that's what is being planned. Distance learning is something that changes every week, as I said, and we find ourselves continually adjusting and responding to new developments. As a reminder, we spent a lot of energy in getting everyone off to a successful start, and then we sent a survey out to parents recently to see how everyone is doing. This is on your screen. We asked the questions: to what extent is your child aware of their teacher's office hours available to them to support and assistance? Are you aware that your child can receive one-on-one support virtually if they are struggling? Please describe your child's workload each week. To what extent does your child know what is expected of him or her on a daily basis for each subject? To what extent does your child need support in organization? And then please indicate your level of communication with the school. Based on this data, principals have been meeting and communicating with their staff regarding the results. Our goal is to continually improve our practice and to support students to the best of our ability. These efforts have already resulted in care team meetings each week that have discussions and follow up to parents who express concerns. The data, I should add, also included multiple examples of praise for the great work the schools are doing, both with communication and academically. After looking at this data with her staff, Kathy Emmert also wanted to check in with her students. She gave a video communication last week to them to see how they are doing, and she met with her leadership team. Many students have reached out to her and expressed their feelings. And as a result, she is preparing to make adjustments to the schedule at second semester and will be making those recommendations to me here this week. This is just one example of how we are continually seeking information and making adjustments to better serve our students. Each school is doing similar work and making adjustments as needed. And my hat's off again to the leaders who are taking this on. Our efforts to improve as a school district overall haven't stopped by any means. Trends moving over from distance learning to district improvement. The best way for small districts to be extremely successful places academically is to become a K-12 unit, a unit that meets and plans and articulates goals together. We have some very exciting work taking place right now with our math and language arts teams. I wanted to convey to you. This year, we're laying the foundation for working as a strong team or a K-12 unit, and this work is going to set us up for success for years to come. This week, in fact, we have a math team representing all schools meeting for the second time. The first time was just a couple weeks ago. As you know, we adopted a new math curriculum called Big Ideas, and teachers are meeting to identify key standards to focus on, and what assessments to incorporate, and what data to gather and review. Being able to have conversations about the continuum of learning math across the system is going to improve student growth in mathematics over time. They're going to be focused on attainment and growth goals as they look at meeting in the next few weeks. Attainment goals dictate what and how students demonstrate attainment of a particular standard or competency at the conclusion of a period of study. And then of course, the growth goals dictate the acceptable percentage of improvement students demonstrate on conclusion of a period of study. So we want to see that they are making a standard, but we also really want to focus on the growth. So one of the first pieces is to get some baseline data, and then from there start to have measures, goals, objectives, that we can see the growth over time. Likewise, Scott Jancy and Chris Sullivan are leading similar initiatives in language arts. Scott is engaged with his language arts and social studies teachers in mapping out standards and creating scope and sequences. You know, the looking at resources we have, the choosing chapters, lessons, areas of focus, supplemental books, etc., that align to the standards. Chris is looking at various standards maps connected with Journeys, which is our curriculum, and we'll be meeting with his team to look at creating our own maps and identifying the needs. So by the end of January, I'll be asking for their roadmaps. We'll look at their needs and see what we can support this year, and what we can't, we'll budget for the coming year. In addition to our progress in building a solid academic foundation, we're also focused on our equity work. So the district equity team, committee, I should say, met for the first time last week. We are one of the only small school districts in the region working with the Regional Education Network, REN, on an equity pilot. This committee is made up of staff from all 3 schools, and they're excited to gather and advance the work of equity either in their own personal growth or in a larger context. And we will be meeting again in January to begin a focus on developing goals and meeting regularly. Finally, as a part of wrapping up our bond work, we worked with our owner's representative and our business office to create a bond timeline with links to Ricardo Besserell's financial report and our business office report. The business office revenue and expense report is the same information we provided to our auditors, and they are an outside agency reviewing our finances. All of these documents can be found on our website and is prepared there for the community. Also, the BOC is looking to complete its final report and should be meeting in January. And that is what I have tonight for you, other than saying happy holidays.
So Brad, I just got one comment that, you know, the survey that you started out the meeting with, that you sent out all the parents. One of the things that you and I have talked about, the great thing about that survey is that each individual building gets to find out if a parent is struggling with their child, they get to address that individually, so that if a child is struggling in there, they could actually contact it and figure out why they're struggling and actually work a little bit closer with that child in educating them through this purpose of through this time of COVID. And I think, you know, I know you and I have talked about that in January when the first survey went out. We didn't really know who was saying what, but since then we've been able to figure that out. And I think that's such an asset. It's such a personal part of what we can do as a district, is to help these parents and students individually, like we would as much as we can online, is like what it would be in a classroom. And I just want to thank you for doing that. And I think it's a great thing.
Thank you.
Hey,
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Dewey.
So I see, I don't know what the response rate was that we have on those, because I don't have that with me where I'm at. Can you tell me what our return rate was on the surveys that you had, according to how many we sent out at district wide, and then how many were returned, what that percentage was?
We have 166 respondents, although there's double to triple that, because of some of them have several children and have responded for different children. So,
okay.
but we have 166 that indicated or that responses that we have, and out of that, the vast majority were aware, they were positive, they rated positively, and the vast majority of people seem to be doing well and know that they can get the support and so forth that they need. But I still feel that, you know, if you have 22% of somebody who's struggling, that's still a lot. And so, like Terry was mentioning, we definitely wanted to identify, you know, who's saying what, and then having staff reach out to them to see if there's anything that we can do to help. And there's like the elementary school did, they had like the hey, this is really, they looked at the different criteria as critical, like this person needs a callback because it seems like they need some support, to there were comments where it's you know, this is just really hard, and they were just expressing some frustration that we all can agree to. And then there were the comments that were positive towards the staff.
Yeah, I think where I was heading, I'm not done yet. Are we there?
Yeah, go ahead, Dewey.
Okay, thank you. I guess what I was just wanting a little assurance is that anybody that we reached out to, you know, that once we got the response, was there any of them that we reached out to that we didn't get response from, and what were those, and are we having anybody slip through the cracks is kind of where I was heading with that, Brad.
Thank you. Yeah, we're not that I know of that we have anybody slipping through the cracks, but what we do have is a small minority of people, but still a pretty consistent minority of folks that are not responding. So example is high school has, you know, a care, all schools have the care team, but let's just use the high school for an example. They have staff that reach out to a family, no response. They reach back out again, no response. They reach out again, no response. Or the response, they might get somebody, but there's just not, they're still not engaging. So we're having those issues of trying to see how we can get folks invested, engaged, and that is a continual struggle, but that's a small group.
Okay, thank you.
Brad, my question is, how many families does our district serve?
Right now we have, was it 778?
That's
That's our students.
I'm talking families.
Don't have the number.
Okay, couldn't we find that out for the future?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can Brad, can you tell us about how many families or students you know that we're not able to engage, or students that we're having trouble reaching, or we're having zero engagement with?
It's about 15 per school. 15 families per school that we're struggling to really connect with.
Okay.
A lot of them we are reaching out to.
Are those, sorry, are those the same families, or would you say those are unique families? Like it's one, you know, sometimes you have one family, but you know, they're represented at all the schools, I guess. Or are those unique families per school?
It's both. We have some families with multiple students, and the administrators are working with each other on communication and support. And then we have some families that don't have kids in the other schools, and they're also struggling. So we have both.
And what, let's see, 15, is that, it's not quite 10% of our student population, or I'm trying to do that math really quickly. That's not quite 10% of our students at each building. Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be less.
280, or I didn't look at our enrollment numbers off the top of my head. You know, I have to go back at those pages, but 2 something at the high school. Yeah, so we're just under 10% at each of the schools for that. So that's probably not too bad. How did we do? You know, Salem Kaiser, you know, really made the news with their grades and students that are having the failures. How did Jefferson do? You don't have to answer, but could you get back to us with that, with our students and how they're doing with, I'm not so worried about grades. I'm just worried about how kids are doing with that path to success and how they're doing. I know we're having trouble at our house right now, so it's hard for us. So.
We're showing an increase of Fs up from the spring to about 8%, and that is something that Kathy, Blaine, and her leadership team have been working really hard on the last. They've just been looking at collecting that data in the last couple of weeks, and that's also precipitating some of the conversations around change for schedules. And some of it also relates to the conversation she's having with students about how they're doing emotionally. And a lot of students have come and talked to her about, you know, when they come back to school, we're going to have to focus on some social emotional well-being, because this has really been hard and taken a toll on people. And that came from the students. So we're already trying just to learn and then adjust, as I was saying earlier, how we can support kids.
Will we see the results of the student survey that went out as well?
That was done with Kathy, and not a district survey. And I don't know that we'll be prepared to share it.
Okay.
But I mean, she's, I know, putting a presentation together to talk about how her students are doing. But I don't know, or haven't seen that survey.
Brad, one of the things is, you know, I think, and obviously, you know, it's really kind of funny, you know, a year and a half ago, kids kind of hated going to school, and now they can't hardly wait to get back to school. And I think a lot of that is a social aspect of it. Kids want to see their friends. They want to, you know, be together as a group socially. And I think it's great. But, and I know, you know, you were talking about the high school and the Fs that are going on there, but can you just explain a little bit, like you did to us on Wednesday, about the summer school that we talked about? I think that's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, we're just sort of early in our conversation on it, but our Title I budget for carryover budget was approved today, and that has been earmarked to put a summer program together for those going into first grade to third. And so we're looking at about 4 teachers for a 4-week program, 5-hour days. And the teachers will be meeting ahead of this of the summer to try to plan to see what the gaps are, like where should we really spend those 4 weeks in terms of making up instruction. So I think a lot of work can be done there. So that's in the works. And then we also are working with the high school through high school success dollars to put a summer program together there too. And so we just talked about it this morning, and we'll be putting the details together in January. But we'll be looking at, you know, essentially a 5-week credit recovery summer program for the high school. And through that, we're going to have to understand and identify what we would be offering in terms of credits. And so that's still has to be planned out, but those are what that's what we're thinking about right now.
And, you know, the reason I brought that up is I just think it's so important because it's great news. And I just wanted the rest of the board to hear that. So thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions for our superintendent? If not, there's no new business. So the last part is policy review. And that is the upcoming policies that are, and the final ones, I should say, that are going to be coming in the January board pack. So if any of you have any questions that you'd like to ask our policy committee, which is Dewey or Melissa, or if Dewey and Melissa has anything they'd like to say to us about that.
Yeah, I actually had we were kind of waiting for some feedback, and then we should have more. We had a couple that we were waiting for some information on. On page 190, it's actually the sexual harassment complaint procedure. Something that's kind of different there. All of our other complaint procedures that we have out there have pretty specific timelines and things that are tied to them. This one kind of had a red flag for me when I was reading through it. This one has in
Well,
the
actually, Melissa, this is the one that came through, and all of these are just J, and as they were when we needed to adopt them. So back before COVID hit, we were intending to put all of this on the agenda, but it accidentally got skipped because of some things with OSBA. So then we just adopted I. And so this is our finishing of J. And then what you and I and Dewey and Brad did the other day, that was a different update. And those questions that you wanted answered, I got all of those questions answered, and all of that policy meeting that we went over, that will be in January's meeting. Since we had so much of this J to get through, we thought we'd just hold it off, and Leslie's still completing those policies. That one that you're talking about, that one will be an I. This is just getting it adopted as it was back in when we were doing everything. Since then, this one has had a few updates. That is correct.
So still right here in JBA GBN -AR.
Mm-hmm.
This deviates significantly from any of our other complaints in that in the the second paragraph, it says the superintendent is authorized to amend these procedures, including timelines when the superintendent feels it's necessary for the efficient handling of the complaint. Notice of any amendments will be promptly provided to the parties. This particular AR out of any of our other complaint ARs, and that particular paragraph, which I've asked for legal review on or clarification, concerns me more than any other, because there are ties to this being sexual harassment and having federal possible implications, and I worry about legal ramifications if timelines are altered, or or there's modifications to that it could possibly jeopardize somebody's legal rights. In no other situation do we have an administrative basically an administrative rule or an administrative regulation where the superintendent can arbitrarily change the timeline on the fly. And
So I did get an answer from OSBA. Do you want me to read it? If you'd like me to.
Are these ones that we're not voting on these tonight, correct? These are ones
These are for next
week.
time.
No,
next
so
week?
these are policy review. Policy review are just things that the board does not approve, actually. They are just policy review. The board reviews them. And so in regards to what Melissa was talking about, I sent the question over to OSBA. Their answer was, one of the attorneys put the paragraph in GBN/JBARA under step 3, and this to allow sufficient review, investigation, and processing for Title IX in the event both laws, Oregon and Title IX, may have been violated, and in the case Title IX coordinator needed more time under Title IX.
And
one of
what
the
if,
attorneys specifically, I guess, that's what,
and what did the attorney say if the timeline is blown?
I'm not sure. They're the expert. I'm not sure.
Did you, who did you talk to?
I sent this over to Leslie and she sent me a bunch of, I sent her the questions and then she sent me the answers and the questions, or the answer to the questions.
Well, I guess I would like the question maybe answered a little bit differently, because it puts us in a bad place. Again, if the timeline changes and it's tied, it's one thing if we need less time. It's another thing if we violate somebody's rights and we take more time and we've taken somebody's rights, or we've changed their timeline. If
So-
if something's agreed upon and somebody says, hey, we need more time to conduct this investigation, we have other language and other policies where it says the parties can mutually agree to extend the timeline. That's different language than the superintendent is authorized to amend these procedures. That's a little more arbitrary. And that doesn't really give somebody that's a complainant a safe place to be if something changes, or it may not necessarily protect or indemnify the district if something doesn't go right for them and they feel like their rights have been violated. So
Brad,
I would have asked that question a little bit differently compared to our other policies, and none of our other policies that are tied to complaints allow that. So I'm super, super curious about that.
so Brad, you had a comment?
Yeah, I took a 3-day, well, 2-day Title IX training this year. Got my certification updated, and when it comes to sexual harassment complaints, a lot of these can be really sensitive, and you kind of have to take them a case-by-case basis. And anytime that we're going to have a situation like this, I'll be walking lockstep with an attorney to make sure that nobody is, that their rights, or that we're not making any kind of a decision that's going to hurt the family at all. But we need to be able to have the flexibility if we're doing an investigation. And that's why it's a little different. The nature of these kinds of complaints often take, investigations that for whatever reason might need to prolong a date, a timeline, if we need to do a little bit more. And so it just gives me the flexibility to make those adjustments, but I'm not going to do it arbitrarily in terms of, I just think it's going to be over here. I think, in any of these kind of investigations, I'll be working with, OSB, PLOS attorneys, and we'll be, they'll be helping to guide and steer what it is. But, if we do that, it's going to be, probably a lawyer's a recommendation that we prolong and that we look into a certain area. So that's just where it comes from.
So if that's the situation, I would like the policy the AR to maybe reflect that if the timeline or the investigation needs to be extended, it will be done so with notification to the, I'd like that to be crafted just a tiny little bit differently, that it doesn't sound maybe so arbitrary. And maybe it reflects some of that other language we have that has that mutual language in there. So it doesn't look like that it can be arbitrarily changed.
So
I completely
I get it, Melissa.
understand the language. I completely understand the reason why, and I understand the nature of investigations, and that sometimes they take longer. I'm uncomfortable with the way that the language is in this policy. And
Are you Are
I
you guys
don't-
meeting again?
Well, we're supposed to meet, as policy updates happen, we agreed when we began that we would need to meet quarterly as policy updates happen. I don't, or if we needed to meet sooner than that. I don't know when our next, we just did a big chunk, so I don't know if we're current or not.
Well, I'm just thinking, you know, if we don't get all of our answers on this one, we can always take it out, and then the next time we have a meeting, we
Well,
can.
Terry, like I said, we're not, this isn't even the, I mean, I just read the answer. We're not even going to be talking about this till the next meeting.
Till the next meeting, correct?
And we do have a couple that we pulled forward for board
Yeah.
discussion that
Okay,
Dewey and I weren't, you know, we wanted to bring forward for board discussion. So
okay. Well, let's
And
do
that'll
that
be
then.
the next meeting.
Let's do it in January.
Mhm.
Okay,
not like the olden days, but you know, there's
No.
a couple of
Yeah,
them.
definitely not 3-hour meetings about policy, because
No.
I looked into some old meetings and they were a little extensive.
they were quite extensive.
Yes.
Okay, so that puts us to number 9, unless anybody had any more comments on that, on the policy review. And if not, that puts us to number 9, with your board comments. So does anybody have any more comments? How about,
I probably have some comments.
okay,
If
go
anyone
ahead.
else does.
Go
I'm
ahead.
actually, can you give me a second though? Because I was writing something to Kathy.
Okay, so I'll go to Kay. You have anything you want to say, Kay, or add?
I would like to thank our office staff for all that they've done. I would like to praise Chris Shaw for the connections that he has put out on the videos on the YouTube. They're charming, they're informative, and I've enjoyed watching them. And I thank everyone on the board and the office staff tonight that we all were able to make this Zoom meeting. Thank you for your time and your effort to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome, Kay. Tracy?
Kay stole my thunder. I enjoyed Chris Shaw's videos. he's quite comical. Appreciate it. And you know, I'll just chime in with respects to our office staff, and I do appreciate all that you guys do on a daily, well, an annual basis. So appreciate you very much, and thank you for answering tough questions when tough questions need to be answered. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Dewey?
Yeah, I'd like to just kind of piggyback on those two. Those two were great things that our office staff is doing a tremendous job. The transparency that's there, I would just like anybody in the audience that's listening or anybody that goes back on and listens for board stuff later. It's an open door policy, you know, with COVID restrictions, to go in and see and make an appointment to go in and get your question answered, so that we can put all these rumors and everything else to bed out there in the community. I mean, I appreciate that they're out there asking questions. Let's just get the questions to the right people so we can get them answered and move on and continue to grow the district. I'd like to thank all our staff and all our board members for, you know, all their participation and the hard work that they're having to put in through all of this and through all the changing targets that we're continually trying to hit. So I appreciate them all.
Okay, thank you, Dewey. Melissa?
Yeah, I do appreciate the questions that were answered tonight and the work that everybody's put into the engagement in the videos. I'm hoping that all of our students are able to be connected. And I don't know if after I'm done, if Brad can address our, you know, how we're doing with connectivity. I continue to have obviously concerns about our bond spending. And I'm glad that the bond oversight committee is going to be meeting in January to be able to finish up with the questions that they have regarding spending and budget and how everything was spent. So looking forward to the community getting to get their questions answered and to be able to, have them be able to finish out that process and that accountability part that had been assured to the community from, you know, 3 years ago, basically, I guess 5 years ago when this process started. So anyway, I appreciate that. It's been a long process, and there's been a lot that's gone into that. And I know that there's a lot of work there, and I appreciate the partnership with the district and the community, and trying to get everything out there. I know it's onerous. There's a lot there. And I think that probably a lot happens in meetings that probably sometimes there's disconnect between what happens in one place and what happens in another place, and putting everything together so everybody can understand it. And I'm really hopeful that through the bond oversight committee process and them looking at everything, everybody can be on the same page at the same time, at the same place, and get a really good understanding of what happened, maybe that last few months of spending, and give everybody some assurances of how all those dollars were spent. It helps people understand, with public money. And I also really am thankful for Hattie for taking the time explaining the auditing process and what that looks like. I know a lot goes into that, having participated in that a couple of times at the county level. So, it's crazy when that happens, and it's all hands on deck for sometimes weeks. So I appreciate that as well. So anyway, Brad, could you answer and help understand how our connectivity is going with our students? I kind of got to thinking about that and wondering if everybody's able to be connected right now. I know you addressed before that people were able to, nearly be 1-to-1 ratio with Chromebooks and stuff like that. But how are we doing with internet service and, some of our rural areas being able to get Wi-Fi and stuff like that?
Yep. Every family that needs support has it. We have plenty of Khajiit hotspots for families that needed it. We have still some extra that are sitting there. But to our knowledge, I asked Chris this question last week, and he said that every single student who needs to, support for Wi-Fi has it. So connectivity is great.
Oh, I just thought of 2 more things. Sorry. Board, I was approached by one of my fellow board members, and I don't know if you've caught this or not, but the Medford School Board, and then also Central Point School District passed resolutions asking the governor to move forward to get our students back into the classroom, obviously in a safe manner. And so I have a copy of a resolution that I wanted to share with you, but they're wanting school boards to, it's really, really hard on our students' emotional, mental health, all of those things that are hitting our kids right now. And obviously we don't want to put anybody in an unsafe situation, right? We don't want kids to go back and to be sick, and we don't want our teachers to be compromised or our staff to be compromised. But we know it's really, really hard on our learners right now, and we really don't know what the impacts are going to be down the road. So there are quite a few boards that are pressing the governor to get us back into in-person learning. So if you're interested, I can share that resolution with you. I don't know if it will make a, big difference, right? We have some science out there from other countries and from other states where they're recognizing or understanding that schools are not the super spreader locations that people have been worried about them being, and especially obviously with cleaning practices and, the other protocols that are in place. So anyway, I've been asked to pass that along. And there's one other thing, I should have written it down. I may have to send it an email when I remember what it is. I've had carpenters here, carpet people here all day, and I might be high on formaldehyde fumes. It's been a long day.
Melissa, send that resolution on that email also, because I'd like to look at that.
Yeah.
And send it out to us so that we can review it and we can consider it. And I just got a text from Dewey about that, so I'd like to look at that too.
Yeah. Oh, all students belong. I actually thought that we were supposed to pass that before January. So I was expecting the all students belong resolution, that we had to have that prior to January.
We had to pass the policy. I'm not familiar with the resolution. We got the policy done, so we'll have that out.
But we haven't approved the policy. We haven't done it as a board. We did
Yes.
it.
No, yeah, you're right. We haven't. We had it in our last meeting, and in January we will pass it.
Okay, but I thought it was required before January.
Unless you want to have a special meeting for it.
I'm sorry, what is the suspense on it? I thought it was a mandate by the governor or by the legislature. What's the deadline on it?
It has to be by the end of January. We'll have it done.
Okay.
We'll
right.
have it done by the end of January.
Okay, so we've done the work in our committee. It's ready to go. So, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I have a couple comments, and it's kind of right along with what everybody else is saying. And, I think we have a tremendous staff in Jefferson School District, whether it be certified or classified. They're doing a tremendous job under the circumstances that is going on. And I'd just like to thank each and every one of you for the job that you do, and it does not go unnoticed. And the other thing that I'd really like to comment is we do have a tremendous district office with what Hattie does, with what Brad does, what Chris does, what all the people in there do is a tremendous job. And to the audience out there that is from the community, those doors are always open. If you have a question about the bond, or if you have a question about the budget, or if you have a question about the audit, they will always try and consider the question, find the answer, and get back to you. And if you have time, under the COVID requirement to come in there and visit with them, they would love to visit with you, either through Zoom or in person. So, don't ignore them. They have a tremendous information that they could help you with if you have questions. So I'd just like to thank each and every one of you and the board itself for all that we do, and for all the time that we put in there. Dewey and Melissa, for all the work that you've put into the policy. I think if you would have voted me in that, I would have quit a long time ago. So I thank you guys for doing that. And with that, do we have any comments from the audience? Amber?
Everything's frozen. I can't see anything, but I don't see anybody. I have some Q&As, but I can't look at them because my screen is frozen. I don't have any emails and I don't have any comments from anybody.
I answered a couple of questions that were out there from some of our community members, just responding in line with what we had spoken about
Okay.
during our meetings. There are a couple that are, somebody was just thanking Terry, Daisy Slusser was thanking you for addressing a question.
Yeah.
And then somebody commented that,
Oh, I see that.
that it wasn't an attack on Hattie.
Okay.
And they were concerned about transparency and accountability. And I don't think I answered anything out of line.
No.
Do we have a date for the bond
Well,
oversight?
okay, that's a really good question. We had a date set up for December, and
We had it for December 17th. But
right for the 17th, but our board or the bond chair could not get a quorum in for there, so he asked for that to be changed to sometime in January. I think it was the 21st. Is that correct?
Well, he just indicated that that day worked for him. I think he
Yeah,
was
the 20
asking
yeah.
if it worked for everybody else, and I hadn't gotten any other emails, so I'm not sure if they're still rescheduling it to the 21st.
Yeah, so that's where we're at on that one. So yeah, so if that answers your question, Melissa. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody, and we are going to adjourn this meeting at, I don't have my clock anymore, 8:13. Thank you guys very much. Have a good night. Oh, and have a Merry Christmas. We
Merry
don't see
Christmas.
any of
Christmas.
you guys. Okay, goodbye.
I just said
No, it's doing like won't end. And
Sucks that you were frozen the whole time.
yeah. Goodness, this will not do anything.
Because I didn't have my face mask on. My muzzle.
Leave meeting. It's locked. It like won't let me do anything. Oops. And it's still on, like I can still hear.
Well, I mean,
You got a phone call.
what is it?